Hello, everybody. Hello, sorry for that delay. That was my fault this morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you all doing? We are back with Arc 6. Oh my god, I forgot which arc we're in. And we're doing chapters 7 and 8 for sure. We think we're going to save chapter 9 for later because we're going to start doing our chapters twice a week. So we'll keep you posted, but it's 34 pages for chapter 8. So I think we might skip it today. But we'll keep you posted. All right, Reverie, do you mind just saying hello so I could test your audio?
Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
it works gorgeous.
Hello.
Up they go. Boop, 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 boop. So much faster. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. As always, we're going to start with our introductions, and then we're going to take a moment or two to chat with you guys, because a couple of you have some good questions and stuff. And we'll, yeah. So, Al, number one Stan, take it away.
Hello, I am the Al number one Stan. I am the Al number one Stan. You can call me Al. Not because I like Al that much, just because my name is actually close to Al.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I'm Connor, one of your hosts for the ReZero podcast, and your voice for Julius.
I'm Greenmore291. I'm just an analyst here, and an editor for Studio Reverie.
I am Carmen, another one of the editors, as well as your melee and your lovely gluttonies.
And your mic sounds incredible, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm Kyles McGiles. I'm your Amelia. I'm covering for Anastasia today, and I'm here.
Everybody, I am Tealdi. I will be narrating. Yay!
Hello, Reverie fans. I'm Unseen Hand, artist for Reverie, and I'll be narrating Arc 6, Chapter 7.
Hello everyone, it's Wolf here. I play Subaru, and I'm also a host of the ReZero podcast. I'm so excited for today!
Pachi Pachi! Yay!
Yeah.
Yay! Oh my goodness. Well, everyone, now we can officially say it, because I don't think we've seen you all since it's been announced. We got season 4 announced this week.
Woo!
And so it has been my mission to try to get past where the anime is going to get to. It's going to get crazy because we don't know when it's going to, start. But considering how well animated this opening number is that we're covering today, here they kind of sort of already passed us. I'm a little nervous. So I'm kicking things into high gear because I don't want to fall too far behind because they could be done within, the next season of anime or it could be longer. So until we know, we're trying to grind a little.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing our best to get these out for you as quick as we can, at least for the live recordings. Obviously, the full edited versions will come after, but we refuse to let the anime finish Arc 6 before we do.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Agreed. We are still waiting on lines for the first chapter, but once we receive those and artwork is finished, we're not putting pressure on you, by the way. We will probably start releasing the next chapters. I've been holding off our editors who have been very excited to go, but I don't want them to potentially lose all their work if any glitches happen in the time that it takes to get all of the stuff back. But we should be getting our stuff very, very soon. I follow up with our voice actors today.
I will say, I will get more time pretty soon, so I think I'll be able to make some progress.
No rush.
On the spreads.
You're doing this for us for free.
Yeah.
That's so kind of you. So kind. You take your time.
Thank you. But I'm just saying that I'll have more time pretty soon. A break is coming up for me. So
that is true. We are almost April. We're going to get half of our cast
Yep.
back, and then in June we'll get almost all of our cast back, and then everyone else who is stuck working over the summer will be in their normal routine.
Sucks to suck.
Sucks to suck.
They'll be dead anyways.
But there will be a lot more work done between April and June for sure as breaks come up. Yay! Other than that, we also have a couple of podcast episodes coming out this week. We have Arc 8 Phase 3 and 4 coming out this week, as well as a very special one on Tuesday for Subaru's birthday. So keep your eye out for that one.
Woohoo! That one was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Almost done the edit. Without further...
All right.
Okay, Chilled Ice, you did ask a question before we get started and everyone gets ready in their positions. I'm curious to know who goes into these chapters blind, or do people love the hard work that goes into these? I'd say it's a mix. Quite a few of us have never read the chapter before, but Connor Gold and Wolf, and now Common's been helping too, they edit the chapters from Witch Cult Translations. They do a check over of it, and they get it done. I've been helping format the past couple just to get them on paper for them to edit, but so I think we're some of the few. A few of us have read Arc 6, so know it, myself included, and some of us go in blind.
Mm-hmm. Although I think, at least with this group, only Tealdi is blind to the chapters still.
Yep, I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
Yay, you!
It's a new adventure for me as much as it is for you, watchers.
Yay! Okay, all right. We almost have all the screenshots I want. We got our voice actors lined up and ready to go.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is... Is it just Amelia, Subaru, shopkeeper, and narrator?
Anastasia.
Yeah.
Anastasia.
Oh, and Anastasia.
Wait, Anastasia for a
Yes.
second.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, Anastasia. Yeah.
Yep, got you. 5 bar. Beautiful. As always, while we're reading, we won't be responding to messages or any super chats or anything. So apologies for that, but we will respond as best we can after our readings, of course. One last.
And those do go to our Lustif fund regardless. So if you want to see that fully voice acted with an earnest effort done, make sure to, become a member. Let us know how much you appreciate anything. It all goes towards improving our setup overall and getting these out to you even faster and better.
Hi. Once that's complete, I'll be on top of that like crazy.
That one's going to be a fun edit to write.
Yeah. All right, we are chapter 7. Beautiful. Alert box is going off. Fantastic.
Very fortuitous timing that we're doing this chapter specifically after the so close after the teaser,
Yeah.
100%.
It's like we're watching
Fun
this.
Yeah, it does feel like that. It's kind of uncanny. Like, crazy
Thumbnails
timing.
and backgrounds.
I mean, there are a million scenes in Arc 6 that they could have done to tease it, but no, it's that specific scene from Arc 7, Chapter 7. No, yeah.
Arc
I
6,
kind of imagine like a season 2 on the stairs, but
I mean, I guess this is the closest thing we get within the sand dunes. They gotta show the next place,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, once that sand clears, it should be visible.
That's true.
Oh, you mean like just in the trailer? They have to... Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Although any anime onlys are going to have any context for what this is.
Yeah,
Or
they-
even like why they left.
Yeah,
What?
like, why are they here? What's happening with Julius?
Where's Priscilla? Where's the water?
where are they?
Did it break this bad? What's happening? They gotta get that intrigue. I have a theory. I have a crackpot theory that somebody in Katakawa watches our stuff and they're like, you know what would really fuck them up right now? This.
Okay, guys, we're gonna have a ReZero event, and we're not gonna have the Arc 6 trailer in it, just to make sure that those bastards at Reverie think that they're good.
We're just gonna
Yeah.
fuck with them.
All reactors can't have this. Bye-bye. All right, I am now ready.
That would explain a lot, actually.
Yeah, I would.
Me too.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, Unseen, whenever you're ready, you launch us off with the chapter title and go ahead, all you.
All right, here we go. You got it wrong, children. Here's ReZero. Okay. Arc 6, Chapter 7. Aim for the Sand Sea. The town nearest to the Auguria sand dunes, Mirula, truly was a deserted inn town. The town was of a reasonable size, but of course, it paled considerably when compared to places such as the Watergate city of Pristella, industrial city of Kostul, and the royal capital of Lagunica. The roads that stretched all throughout the kingdom were well kept. It had been a steady trip on the dragon carriage all the way to Marula, but the final destination of the East End was as lacking as it could have been.
Perhaps it can't be helped. Looking at the map from here on outwards, that there's only the Auguria sand dunes, and the kingdom's biggest forest is the south, right? We're far away from the 5 major cities, and we can also see that there isn't much pedestrian traffic.
Emilia let out that impression while in town, walking beside Subaru. She was wearing a white robe that covered her head, her beautiful silver hair and face concealed. A beautiful girl like Emilia appearing in a rural area would be a major impact on the townspeople's sense of beauty. That was Subaru's joke. But she did also have a position of high standing. That was why she showed slight consideration to avoid any trouble, not just for her appearance, but for her identity as well. That being said, those weren't the only reasons as to why her head and mouth were covered. The other reason to conceal herself, aside from her identity, was Marula's renowned disaster, the Sand Wind.
It can't expand its borders to the east, nor to the south. And on top of that, there's the constant sand wind. Oh, that's rough.
Emilia stood downwind while Subaru stood upwind to act as a slight resistance to the wind while he pulled the cloth that he wrapped around his face, murmuring those words while covering his mouth. Whenever he moved his tongue, he would feel sand rubbing between his teeth, and it made him feel quite sick. This sandy wind came flowing into the town, blowing down from the sand dunes to the east. It seemed that the sand wind would blow against the town continuously on days of strong wind, and for that reason it was imperative to wear sand-protecting fashion like this, even just to walk around through town.
Subaru, what's wrong?
It's nothing. I was just thinking about how this turned out differently than what I had imagined when I heard it was a desert.
Emilia tilted her head at Subaru, glancing at him sideways. Her body was concealed to the utmost limit, covered from head to toe in a cloak. Subaru's thoughts were basically that beautiful girls should be able to please the eyes of the people around them with various outfits. However, such protective outfits as hers were hardly a feast for the eyes. Speaking of the desert, that dancer-like outfit protects against the sunlight. What was it called?
Nevertheless, perhaps we should have listened to the innkeeper's advice.
It's sand time right now, right? There is no one in the streets.
The wind wasn't very strong, but perhaps because it was light, a small dust cloud had formed. In this yellow, hazy field of vision, nobody besides Subaru and Emilia could be seen in the streets of the town. The townspeople, completely accustomed to this environment, would shut themselves inside during sand time, i.e., when the sand wind blew. Even the gaps in the doors and the windows of the buildings would be sealed. In truth, within the sand wind, not only being able to see, but being able to breathe took considerable effort. It was so bad that the innkeeper had stopped them, saying that they shouldn't go out during sand time. However, there was a reason as to why they had disregarded the innkeeper, who had halted them, and went outside anyway.
This is how it is in town. The sand wind at the sand dunes is different, right?
I think so.
It wasn't a test run per se, but they had purposefully gone outside during sand time to prepare themselves mentally. Surrounded by blowing sand at all times, the journey through the sand dunes would be difficult, even outside of sand time. They were far from the dunes, surrounded by buildings, and they still couldn't see well. They had to start preparing themselves for the severeness of the sand dunes path.
All right. How about we enter a shop somewhere? Since Ubaru and I will turn into blocks of sand at this rate.
While swiping away the sand that clung onto her, Amelia pointed towards a building at the other side of the road, a place that appeared to be a bar or something of the sort. It seemed to be a temporary refuge shelter. It felt like the other stores were refusing visitors, but the entrance to this one was open, at the very least. They hurried over to that building, just like Amelia had suggested. They removed as much dirt as they could from the door, and after that, they slowly entered the bar.
Welcome, you from the Sandwind.
Upon entering the bar, the shopkeeper on the other side of the counter, who was polishing a glass, looked at them and greeted them with a low voice. He sounded unwelcoming with his low voice, probably because, with a single glance, he had noticed that Subaru and Amelia were smeared with sand. They did remove as much sand off of themselves as they could, but there was still a huge amount sticking onto them. Although they did feel bad about it, they scattered the sand and set foot into the store.
What would you like to order?
Cold milk!
Hot milk?
Response to the two people who sat down at the counter and said their orders, the storekeeper squinted his eyes, but remained silent. Incidentally, Subaru had ordered cold milk, while Amelia had ordered hot milk.
Doesn't feel very busy. Is business bad during the sand time?
Subaru took off the hood he had covered himself with, and asked the shopkeeper while tasting the milk he had been brought. The unsociable shopkeepers responded with an "ah" before continuing.
Even at the best of times, very few outsiders come and go in this town. Running a shop during sunrise is just like a hobby.
I see. Then as outsiders and customers, we must be regulars, eh?
You can't just go to a bar, ask for milk, and act all proud. Here, this is yours, miss.
Oh, thanks.
The shopkeeper held out the hot milk to her. Amelia grabbed onto the ceramic and took a breath. Subaru bent forward onto the counter, gazing at the girl blowing on the milk.
There's no other customers, so you've got some free time now, right? Mind hearing me out for a bit?
Even if I did, it's rude to start talking to someone in the middle of working while seeing that they have time. What do you outsiders like to know?
I'd like to know about the Agoria sand dunes.
With his finger raised, Subaru thrusted his inquiry to the shopkeeper. Once he had heard it, however, the shopkeeper had his expression collapse for the first time. The rough shopkeeper, with short gray hair, squinted the eyes under his dark eyebrows in suspicion. He sized up Subaru and Amelia and let out a slight sigh.
I don't know what kind of joke this is, but don't bother going if you're gonna treat it like a picnic. You'll just end up dead.
Hey! Wait! What are you saying? Do we really look like we're fooling around to you?
What else did my warning just now seem to you? That place is a sand sea of death. Everyone who goes there never comes back and dies. It's not a place to have a date with a woman.
I certainly do think that the suspension bridge effect is relevant, but I'm not that concerned. Amelia Tan! You tell him too!
Hot. What was that? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Behold, the ways of EMT!
Let me give you some useful advice. Go home before you die.
Witnessing Subaru and Amelia's interactions, the faith the shopkeeper had in the two got worse and worse. That being said, it was not like the shopkeeper was saying this out of spite. He actually did know about the danger of the Auguria sand dunes from its reputation. However,
We don't have the option to turn back. We only have the path forward, and so the only thing we can do is pick the safest route possible. You understand, right?
You're the ones who don't understand. Listen up. Those sand dunes are hopeless. The witch's miasma drifts around in the witch beast den, and you can't get close to that tower you see far away.
The shopkeeper began speaking of the threats of the sand dunes. Subaru's persistent behavior beginning to irritate him. Pointing at the east window that was closed to prevent the sand from coming in, he curled his lips.
Every year there are people like you who make a reckless attempt at the sand dunes. They aim for the Sage's Tower at the Sand Sea, but no one has ever reached it. They'd be lucky to come back alive, but the majority either end up drying up at the Sand Sea, or they become witch beast food.
Has no one really reached it before?
I believe the Sand Sea's tower was built hundreds of years ago. The number of idiots that have tried to go there hasn't decreased. If a person did reach it, there'd be no way they wouldn't come forward to boast of it. Don't you know that even the Sword Saint failed that achievement?
Even Reinhard had failed the challenge to conquer the Pleiades Watchtower. Reinhard himself had told him so, and he had also mentioned the abnormally high difficulty of conquering the Watchtower. But even so, Subaru's group were the next people to have to come to overcome it.
Of course we don't do something stupid like tackling it without any plans. That's why we're gathering intel. Doing that in a bar is a basic step, don't you think?
Is it really? Why would you do that in a place where you drink alcohol?
If you ask me to explain in detail, I probably can't, but it isn't because everyone gets talkative after drinking alcohol, and then they end up pouring out various rumours.
So basically, you're looking for drunken ramblings. It's unacceptable to go in there without any plans, but leaning towards stupid plans is bad too.
Your sound argument is piercing!
Subaru got knocked down head-on by the truth, and promptly sunk as he ingested his milk. Usually, whenever Subaru talked with proper adults, his normal conversational pace would be overwhelmed. The shopkeeper was also used to talking to people like Subaru, with the goal of challenging the sand dunes recklessly. As a point, it wasn't as if Subaru's challenging of the sand dunes was reckless, but the shopkeeper did not know the reality of the situation, and as such, he would be treated the same way. At the rate they were going, they would end up returning without a single clue, and...
Anyway, for you to even bring a girl to hell look like that is...
Sorry, shopkeeper-san. You've been showing a great care for us, and yet Subaru is doing nothing but complaining.
Just when Subaru was about to give in to the stalemate, Amelia stopped the shopkeeper, his sermon about to begin. The shopkeeper widened his eyes at Amelia's words that had been prefaced with an apology, and Amelia quickly bowed her head.
Thank you for all the help you've given us, even though we aren't even acquaintances.
I'm sorry too for nagging. However, I don't think I've said anything wrong. I come across youngsters like you constantly.
Are there really that many people that have tried to see the sage?
Well, there's really not that many people who are strong enough to meet the sage. The majority of people trying to conquer the Aguria sand dunes just want the honor. Sure, there are people who say they'll obtain wisdom from the sage given that things go well, but the idea that they'll get a reward if they make it to the tower is a bit of a stretch.
The shopkeeper dropped his shoulders and sighed with what you would call a fed-up look. Just like he had stated, he had probably seen off many people who had gone to challenge Pleiades' watchtower. Perhaps he had looked kind-hearted, even with how his face looked, something that brought him shame.
Does that also mean that nobody has met the sage?
Never heard of anyone getting that far. According to the rumors, the sage is still watching for anything below in the dunes from the top of the tower, punishing insolent people. But it's not like I've witnessed it. I can't help but thinking that the sand dunes themselves are the bait, trap for hunting prey.
You mentioned the witch's miasma. What is that?
It's as I said, there is a witch beast den. All over the kingdom you've got witch beasts of all shapes and sizes, but those sand dunes are a special case with all sorts of beasts.
The shopkeeper quietened his voice, yet he was talkative, perhaps getting carried away with fun. with the fun. When Amelia gulped and nodded, the shopkeeper's gaze turned distant.
Spotted wrecks and black-winged mice have their charm. Unicorns and sandworms are endemic species only seen here. Also, if you find a flower garden on the sanding soil, that's a Cartesian bear's hunting place. Think of it as a nightmare.
Cartesian bear?
They're supposed to only be found at Kararagi. They're witch beasts that have bloomed flowers all throughout their body. Once you're fooled by their appearance and approach them, they'll slurp on your guts.
As expected, witch beasts sure are nasty.
Who was it that had informed them that witch beasts had the purpose of killing humans? The shopkeeper snorted his nose at Subaru, the latter frowning while listening attentively.
Told you so. But the danger you must watch out for the most, even more than the witch beasts, is the miasma. Yeah, there are dangers like the sand wind and the changes in the environment, but your biggest concern should be the miasma.
That miasma doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Subaru tilted his head towards the shopkeeper, who had lost his voice again. Subaru heard the word miasma many times before, and he could even imagine what it was like based off the impression the word gave off. Basically, it was bad air, which had bad effects on mind and body alike. He felt like it was different from a noxious gas, but perhaps it was something similar to it.
Subaru, if described, miasma is sort of like mana that was polluted by bad things. You can't see it, but it's something everywhere. Don't you know?
Eh? So, mana is miasma?
He was surprised at what Amelia had pointed out. The explanation was easy to understand, but the implications were a bit different from what Subaru had imagined. Mana truly did influence magic users and spirits alike to an extreme degree. However, he'd thought that it would not pose much of an issue for just existing or moving about atop a dragon. As if she could see through Subaru's disappointed inner thought, Emilia slowly shook her head.
You can't take miasma lightly. Normal mana is something that's pure, has no color, no directivity. But miasma, mana that has been polluted by bad things, can be absorbed via the gate and corrupts creatures from the inside. Considering how the gate is an organ that naturally takes in mana, it's not something that can be avoided.
Can't have your breathing stopped for good, I guess.
The lady's interpretation's correct, but the miasma drifting about at the sand dunes is even worse. The miasma over there ruins not only living beings, but also food.
You mean food becomes inedible?
I mean that once you eat it, the miasma pollution will progress fast. You'll go crazy from just taking even a little bit of it through your gate. Try taking it directly through your stomach. The pollution will swallow you whole.
What happens then? It won't just stop just because I've gone insane.
People commonly say that you'll die from madness. Tell you the truth? Well, I can't deny it.
The shopkeeper spoke succinctly, shaking his head. His complexion was terrible. He had probably seen it before, although he was not relating it directly. He had seen people's last moments being violated by the miasma and going crazy as a result, arriving at their death.
It'd be far better for you guys to not go over there. Try that.
Thank you for the milk and the talk, too.
Amelia finished her hot milk and expressed her gratitude towards the shopkeeper, who had concluded the conversation. The shopkeeper was probably aware of how they had begun prying out information from his conversation halfway through. To pile on further, he had also continued to speak until then, attempting to change Subaru and the others' plans. He simply felt concern for them. But even so, Subaru and the others would still go towards the same place.
I've paid. Subaru, let's go.
Let's go then.
Pulling onto Subaru's sleeve, Emilia placed some silver coins onto the counter. She had given him way too much for 2 cups of milk, but it also did include a tip for the information in his care. They got up, conveyed their thanks to the shopkeeper, and moved to exit the shop.
For about a year now, people have noticed there are birds flying towards the sand dunes.
Huh?
They covered themselves with the robes again, preparing themselves for the sand wind, and a voice called out to them from the back, from behind. When they turned back, the shopkeeper had already turned his own back, and continued speaking as if having a monologue while wiping a glass.
The people that saw them see that the birds are flying towards the tower, and it's spread as a joke. It's a story without any legs to stand on, but
That was when the shopkeeper cut his sentence and put down the glass. And then,
if you ever become lost in the sand dunes, try looking for a bird. If you're lucky, it might lead you towards the tower. Though, if you're lost and miss the sand dunes, your luck's already at its worst.
Subaru and Amelia left the shop without replying to the shopkeeper's words. Upon going outside, they noticed that the sand wind was now considerably weaker. Emilia looked back at Subaru, confirming that her vision was now somewhat better compared to when they had entered the bar.
For now, let's return to the inn and meet up with everyone else. Anastasia and the others might also be back now.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm also interested in the results that they've obtained too.
Standing in front of Amelia, who had covered her face again, he began walking while acting as a windbreaker. And then, once they reached a point where they could no longer see the bar, Amelia murmured quietly,
The person from the store just now was missing a leg.
I didn't notice.
I don't know where he was injured, but I wonder if it was because of that.
Subaru could perceive what Amelia had tried to say from her thoughtful words. The shopkeeper had nicely and warmly expressed his strong feelings on the dangers of the sand dunes to the two strangers. If that was indeed a warning based off his experiences, then they were terrible people to have shaken off that concern and head towards the dunes nonetheless. That was what he had felt.
Looks like Natsuki-kun and Amelia-sans have returned safely.
They had returned to the inn. The person that greeted Subaru and Amelia was someone who should have been outside, just like they had been. Anastasia. She had changed from her outside clothes, a gorgeous and elegant smile on her face as she sat down on the bed. The inn the group was staying at, in Marula, was first class. It was still unfair to compare it to the Pristilla's Water Plumage Inn, but there was no other reason aside from the difference in quality between both cities.
Where's Julius?
After dropping us at the inn, he said he's going to take a look around the city for a bit. Perhaps he's getting used to having sand in his eyes. Just like Natsuki-kun. How was it?
I really do wish we had goggles to protect against the dust. They're made of some transparent glass and they covered this part of the face as protection. Can't we make some of those?
Thinking of underwater goggles, Subaru asked while pointing to the area around his eyes. Anastasia tilted her head at those words and voiced an "I see" as she nodded.
We'd have to worry about things like glasswork and durability. But it's something worth considering. Perhaps. The sand wind problem ain't a matter unrelated to Kararagi, so it might be a useful idea.
I'm not talking about patents far into the future. If we don't have those things, well, as long as we avoid sand time, I don't think we'll be incapacitated.
It seems like the bigger concerns are the witch beasts and the miasma, as opposed to the sand. Beatrice and I can try dealing with the miasma with microspirits, but we'll have to depend on Meili for the witch beasts.
Amelia said as such, and looked at the wall towards the next room. At the moment, Beatrice should be in that room monitoring Meili. He wanted to trust his feelings that she wouldn't betray them, but she did have a criminal record. He couldn't trust her, and there was no guarantee that she had maintained her loyalty to her mother. Nor could it be said that her mother wouldn't make an attempt to silence her.
So, we'll be relying on Anastasia to guide us. It's pretty risky.
That's usually how it goes, though.
You're not wrong.
Subaru loosened his lips at Amelia's rare interruption and then looked at Anastasia. She straightened her back while still on the bed and continued the conversation by saying, "But, well..."
Don't you worry. We fulfilled the purpose of our trip. The dragon carriage's wheel adjustments, and the other way to enter the sand dunes should be as requested. Right, sorry. We're somewhat having you do everything. It's alright. Since in return, we'll be counting on Amelia-san when it comes to the fight and power.
Anastasia calmly waved her hand. One of the purposes she spoke of was fixing up the dragon carriages before they entered the dunes. Usually, dragon carriages would only travel along a well-maintained road, or at least a road. However, the road this time was mostly a sand road, so an ordinary dragon carriage would be unable to move properly. Ditching the sand carriage and riding the dragons would have been a good choice, were there not many women and children, not to mention the unconscious Rem. Thus, it was necessary to adjust the dragon carriage to be better suited for the desert terrain, and it was also necessary to make some changes to the ground dragons.
Can't leave Patrichet behind. That'd be ridiculous.
That girl is really smart. If he told her she'd be left behind, she might bite Subaru.
That actually could happen, so he could not give her a response. Plus, he was unable to leave her behind.
So, other than the dragons, about the discussion, it was no discussion, really. All I did was try to placate their fears and make them listen to me.
She showed an adorable smile, but sensing that it was not what it seemed, Subaru's back began to get some chills. There was the dragon carriage and another matter to be taken care of. Simply put, it was the rite of passage to deal with the sand dunes. That was, if the royal candidates Amelia and Anastasia were lost in the Auguria sand dunes, Auguria sand dunes, who would be responsible? As of now, it was possible to say that these two held the most important position in the kingdom. If both were buried under the Auguria sand dunes, it would be quite a big deal, and naturally there would be confusion over the person responsible. The Auguria sand dunes, never mind the one who managed the sand dunes themselves, the weight of responsibility would be unbearable for the lord that governed the area around Marula, their last stop. Thus, Anastasia had gone to write a letter for the lord beforehand to convince them with,
No matter what happens, it's the candidate's own responsibility. But still, they might be blamed for not stopping me. Our lives ain't just our own. It's a big responsibility, don't you think? That's true, from the start. Not because of things like the royal selection or being a candidate, but there'll be a lot of people that won't be saved if we don't meet the sage and find a way to get everything back. It's not something that has come up now. You sure are being as dependable as you can.
Anastasia looked back at Amelia, who had made her declaration in what appeared to be a somewhat happy way. After that, she tilted her head, looking at Subaru with a...
So...
Didn't you guys get any results from your stroll? There's no way you guys actually went out to simply used to having your sand in your eyes, right?
Well, it's not like we went out on a date in the middle of Sandwind. We got the chance to listen to someone who was informed for a little bit.
The store person being informed was just a coincidence, though.
My foresight is on point for choosing that bar.
I have a feeling that I was the one who chose the shop.
Anyhow, whatever the flow of events was, and whose achievement it was, were both irrelevant. Anastasia had a pondering look after they had finished telling her about the bar.
Catch inside of a bird.
Really? That's what you're curious about?
Well, The other parts are just things like challenging the Agoria sand dunes and stuff. That's just half a step up from common knowledge. Anyway, the very interesting part is that change. Stuff like birds ought to be the most sensitive to the wind mixed with my asthma. Now that you say it, that's right.
In response to Anastasia's words, Amelia went into deep thought while caressing her hair. Glancing sideways at Amelia's pondering, Subaru gently brought his face close to Anastasia.
There's no way you actually do have something in mind, right?
Nothing special comes to mind. However, that was really something very interesting to me. Don't make such a doubtful face. Look, she'll get suspicious.
He could see Aridna's true feelings on her face slightly, but he had no choice but to withdraw after she had pointed that out. Fortunately, Amelia had not seen the interaction just now as she was in deep thought, but for some reason, in Subaru's heart, it felt like he was an adulterer, frantically hiding his cheating.
When should we leave?
The sooner the better, right? The worrying conversation about the dragon's carriage has been settled already. Perhaps we should leave immediately after we loaded on supplies again.
Tomorrow would be too quick. How about around the day after?
Guess we'll go with that then.
Anastasia clapped her hands together, and Amelia nodded in agreement. Then she turned her gaze and squinted at the glass window of the room, tightly sealed to keep the sand out. Amelia also turned her amethyst eyes out the window, looking to the east. A very long, looming shadow had fallen from there, stretching across the entire town.
The Pleiades watchtower?
A voice like a silver bell called upon the structure's name. The tower that was their destination was so high that it could be seen from Arula. Was it even possible to lose track of something that big? Before they had even set foot in Marula, with the appearance of the Pleiades watchtower during their journey, that question had been present in Subaru. What could have gone wrong to not be able to find such a large landmark? But on the other hand, as he thought that, the bartender's warning also pierced him.
Having no plans is out of the question, and a stupid plan is a poor plan, was it?
Whatever the case, they did not have the option to back out from the challenge. That was exactly why they had chosen the means that would increase their chances, means that were available to them. They should be different from the adventurers the shopkeeper spoke of, unprepared with their stupid plans. That was what he had believed. And that was why Subaru did not realize it, and he would not realize it. Whatever the case, they did not have the option to back out from the challenge. He did not notice that, at this point, he had already closed off the first path for himself.
Pachi Pachi!
Woo!
Chapter
Nice
7!
to get up, everyone.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh, we have so many things to address from the chat. First things first, before we talk about the chapter, I want you all to know I do keep an eye on the chat. So you guys, when people say like, oh, can't hear this, can't hear that, I am seeing it live. As a reminder, couple things. Somebody's audio was echoing whenever I would speak, so I had to try to like turn my volume down and my gain down. So if you guys, if anyone's on the call with us without headphones on, if you could get some headphones on or just turn your speakers down a little bit, that'd be beautiful. I think that's where most of the echo is coming from me and Wolf. We have two microphones going at the same time. So he's in our booth with one microphone. Unfortunately, Subaru was whispering for most of this, so I had to adjust the gain as like low as I could, but then he'd get high and like peak. And because I have to adjust the gain as he goes, and I'm also voice acting at the same time, sometimes he's gonna be a little quieter, a little louder. I have the mic that eats sound like crazy. So anytime my dog moves or I breathe or our heating turns on, you'll hear like a little bit of sound. So like while I'm reading, I'm also like, I feel like a hacker. I'm adjusting our gain. I'm watching the gain on our stream. I'm watching the chat. I'm reading along. So I do see those things and they are being adjusted. But sometimes you're going to hear the odd echo from Wolf if he's screaming and I haven't fully adjusted his stuff because it's going to pick up on my mic instead. And also anything that goes on with Discord. Discord sometimes eats sound. And for whatever reason, Streamlabs likes to eat our sound and project Discord. So I have to adjust as we go a lot. So thank you for keeping me posted. I'm not allowed to type while we're reading because it's too loud. So I do see this. I'm trying to figure out ways to let you all know I've read. But yeah, we'll go into the discussion and then I'll answer a couple questions for the upcoming chapters, too.
Yeah, I mean, what's up with those birds, huh? That's weird.
Yeah, the birds are kind of freaking
Weird ass
weird.
fucking birds.
Why the birds chilling?
Yeah.
Birds are always
Why are the
weird.
birds going towards the tower? Why would birds do that?
How
birds
can
in
birds
a,
do that?
in a fat- birds in a fantasy series, they're always like the most pure-hearted creatures imaginable, or the exact opposite. There's nothing in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they crows or
Yeah.
ravens?
There's no neutral
Oh, yeah.
bird.
No neutral birds.
No true neutral.
Birds are scary.
If they're even birds at all.
Yeah, dun dun dun.
And they came in a year ago, and Subaru came in a year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
A little bit over a year.
A year.
Like a year and 3 months, give or take.
Yeah.
Could that be a thing? Ooh. Are
Interesting.
we having an
Because
attack
2 to
on
3
Titan
is 3
moment?
months. Kill the birds!
I have a
I
strong
will
say,
suspicion
uh,
that they aren't actually birds.
Mm.
Subaru,
They're just-
Subaru thinking
Mm.
such protective outfits as hers were hardly a feast for the eyes. My ass.
Right? You're in a desert, Subaru.
We're going to a convention
also,
soon,
like-
and I'm ordering that suit. It is perfection. I'm so excited. It's so comfortable.
Oh yeah, that too. It's like Subaru. She's wearing like what, like
A
a
bodysuit.
tight suit,
Bodysuit,
Yeah.
yeah.
bodysuit. What are you talking about, Subaru? Yeah.
Not pleasing to my eyes, apparently. Okay, man.
I think he's mostly
Yeah,
talking
Subaru
about
turned
the
into
cloak
Ringo's for a
that
second.
like completely covers her up.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes
That one was
sense.
also,
I
like,
guess.
Just really
this would
weird.
make more sense
it
if
was
she was wearing
written.
like a skirt or something. But no, apparently, according to season 4, it's tights.
Sorry for asking now. Connor, do I still sound far away from the mic?
No, that fixed a little bit of the
No,
ways in.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because my gain was too
That was
high.
me for like a little bit.
It was when my voice kept coming in
All
on
good.
someone's end. Yep, okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting again.
No, you're good.
That's fine.
This is a recording. It's not just
Yes.
not just an entertainment stream. We're here to get stuff worked out and
Yes.
cleared.
I will. So, as for the chapter. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead first.
Oh yeah. I think the first thing that struck me when I recorded this chapter for the first time was I really like the atmosphere here. It really builds up the kind of tone that the rest of the arc is going to have pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're going into the Pleiades Watchtower with a sense of mystery and a sense of foreboding. Like we know something is going to go wrong going into this.
hmm Like this is going to go
Oh,
awful.
okay.
You all are being ridiculously dumb to walk into these sand dunes. Please,
No, we're gonna
please don't
fucking
do it.
die.
Turn
Also-
I lost a leg.
Guys, I'm telling you.
Yeah, the
It's like a giant flashing billboard. It's like, don't.
Turn
Don't.
around! Turn around!
Abandon all hope ye who enter here.
And then Subaru's like,
It's
well, that
like
doesn't
every
apply to me
statement.
because I can't read.
Every statement the milk guy says, it's just like followed up by with, yeah. So the sand dunes are, but anyways, don't go there. You're gonna die. And then something else. Nope, you're still gonna die. I don't know why I'm telling you this.
Well, let me just keep adding more.
Yeah. Yeah, you might as well have had a sign over there saying "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." Like, that's the level of like, don't go
What?
here. That yeah.
You're cooked.
Yeah.
Don't go here,
You're doing
please.
Yeah.
And why are you taking such a pretty girl too? Like you're awful. Don't do this.
Bro, why are you? It's like going on a date to the first layer of hell. What are you doing, man?
Just
Yeah.
loving life.
The shopkeeper
I
is an
think the,
interesting
I love-
character.
He is.
He's such
yeah.
a cool guy.
Little does a shopkeeper
He's
Definitely
know,
someone
classic,
who's
like-
tried this.
Amelia's a beast.
He's the classic. Oh yeah. he's the classic like old man at the beginning of the horror movie, being like, "Oh, watch out for the castle," you know.
Oh, the exposition dump.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Beware
exactly.
of the bears. The bears will kill you.
Not the bears, the flower bears.
And the birds! Those will definitely come
You know,
back
the
later.
beast is afoot. The beast walks these woods.
The worms, the flowers, they're not real.
Don't
The
eat
scarier
bees.
part is, those are all the things that people who made it back were able to report about. What about all those stuff for
yeah.
that got people who didn't make it back?
Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah.
And Reinhard couldn't even get there. And Reinhard.
I
didn't go the
believe to
moon.
this day that he just didn't try hard enough. Exactly.
Yeah, he probably was like.
And he
jumped
didn't throw his
through
hand
it.
enough at it. He tried to cross it once. He was just like,
I just don't
ooh,
wanna.
ugh.
Just go
I'll
around.
get it.
It's
I'll go
odd.
home.
I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going home.
I know the royal family's like dying and all, but
I don't care about them anyways.
I think, honestly, it may
I bet-
just be a thing of Reinhard is the rock in the rock, paper, scissors in every scenario. But then he becomes the gun rock. Because, like, his whole thing is he's going to try and brute force through everything. And that just doesn't work in every
Yes.
scenario.
I'm gonna try to cleave through sand time.
Hiya.
Literally.
It-
Why can't the Dragon Sword
it's
Reed
never-
find Sandtime worthy? No!
Why isn't it worthy? God damn it! God.
Here's my question: Can Reinhard can like sand get into his eyes? Can he like get dirty? Does he have like a divine
probably
protection
has,
against
like,
like
the
sand?
divine-
He does have a
protection
divine
of-
protection against getting dirty. I believe that is one of the
Yeah.
powers.
What a
Okay.
nice divine
There you go.
protection. I wish.
Yeah.
Like, I
The
would
main
love to-
problem is
I don't
he's
think it
probably
gonna-
has
applies
something
to his
to keep his eyes
clothes, but it does apply to him. Or it might even just be that he can't get wet. I think that might actually be what it is.
I see.
I mean, that makes sense with what we saw with season 3. he was in that water. He was on the moon.
Road did not care.
He did not care. He was not thinking of his laundry.
So okay. If like you buried if sand was like going like blowing onto Reinhard, would it like create like a would it create like a barrier around Reinhard, like of pure sand? Like would he be covered in would there be like a shape of
It would
sand
just probably like avoid him.
in there?
Like it'd all fly around him instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If,
Yeah, like
if the
if
sand
Walking
wind is
directly
intentional,
behind him, you're screwed.
yeah, exactly.
Whip, 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 whip.
It's catching the jet stream behind the plane. Just all singing.
Yeah.
This is why I didn't.
Hey
bring
Reinhard,
anyone.
how's the
They die
I
on
was
the
the only
spot.
one that came back alive.
I swear I didn't try to
No
kill
fault
him
of
out
my
there.
own.
Yeah, I think this is
But
just
yeah,
an
I
issue
love
of
the
Reinhardt
image.
not being the solution in things like this. It's the same with what happened with Wrath in Arc 5. He
Yes.
Yeah.
he is the unstoppable object, but when you hit the invisible wall, he ain't gonna keep moving, you know? Like,
I mean, there is
Yeah.
that, but I'm also curious if the super heavy level of miasma that's everywhere, especially because how they talk about the way that it gets into you this time, because they mentioned in previous seasons that if Reinhardt's around, you can't cast spells because he uses all the mana in the atmosphere. Like it
Oh.
all drains to him.
I guess this area would be the most dangerous place in the world for him then, because if he's
Yeah.
constantly sucking that level of miasma, and
this
his
is-
gate is like doesn't work the same that other
It's
gates
one
on
way.
Six does. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he couldn't expel the miasma properly in any feasible way. So it would be really dangerous
Well,
for him.
He can expel. I mean, you don't expel miasma that way. You still burn mana like normally, but it's getting into you that corrupts you. Like he still burns mana when he does his techniques. Like that's what, like back in I think episode 3, he has to wait for Amelia to finish healing Old
Yeah,
Man
he
Rom
sucks in mana from the atmosphere and then
before he uses any powers to avoid sucking everything in. All the magic will just go to him instead.
Which is why he's
Which
so
is really
anti
unfair
to
if you're fighting him as a
spirits and
wizard.
Spirit arts users, eh?
yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
But
What
even
makes
if,
it worse for him is that since there's a lot of miasma, there's no spirits,
Mhm.
and spirits are how he heals, right? Like the spirits in the atmosphere just like love sucking up to him.
I think that's Julius who has that ability, not
Really?
Reinhard. Yeah, because he's got the divine protection of gathering spirits. It's literally just he just recovers from wounds because he heals fast enough. It's just overpoweredness. I don't think it has to do with the spirits necessarily, but aside from like the Phoenix, the Sword Saint, and the ones where we actively watch him get the powers, none of his specific divine protections are explained in depth.
Yeah, other than the ones that are just like in text. We don't have anything else.
The ones that are named like light novels, divine protection of never mixing up salt and sugar and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yes! Yes!
Absolute classic.
Oh, now this is a real
Is that real?
Lagunican classic.
Yes, that's real.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's real.
Yeah, because I remember at least with divine protections, the way they work is that there's some that it's like
One only.
super like it's confusing to me because I remember it being explained once that it was like, oh yeah, some are really really like rare, and some of them are just way more common. But then it's like, aren't there only supposed to be one of them for some of them? It's just like that kind of thing of.
Yeah,
Well, I
for
think
some
there's
divine
always-
protections, there's only one.
I think there
can only be
is
one.
always only one. It's just that there are some that apply to multiple individuals. Like there is still only the one divine protection of wind protection or wind evasion that is
Yeah, multiple people
shared
can have it.
amongst all the ground dragons.
Yeah.
Like, if you chose to have the wind protection, divine protection, it wouldn't like strip it away from all the dragons. But if you did with like,
I mean, I think it
melee-
would.
Really?
I genuinely think that it would take it away from all of them.
Huh?
Hmm.
Is there any case where he's had a divine protection that another character has had at the same time?
Nope. Not
Not
so
the-
far as we've seen.
Because
I see.
No
Okay.
one. It's never been across multiple people.
I was about to say, if Reinhard was considering, like, in Arc 5, for instance, taking Liliana's, would that just mean that she would never be...
No. I was like in telepathy, right? Didn't
Yeah,
he use
he
telepathy
took it.
after getting?
That's how I've always interpreted it, is that he's taking the divine protections. I don't think he's copying them.
If you just straight up took Liliana's divine protection, that's kind of fucked.
Well, he didn't take it from her. He took the one that lets him determine other people's divine protections and use that to find out that she did have that one.
Yeah.
But then he used it later on in the arc to communicate with Subaru and Ferris.
That was a different one that he has, not necessarily the one that works like hers.
Okay.
At least as
Just
far as I understand. I don't think he's.
other telepathy.
I think, yeah.
He's a parasite.
That's.
What a
I mean, if
guy.
I'm wrong,
Hunting
then I'm
Dragon
wrong.
Balls.
Mian.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just a lot of copying powers. And I think just the divine protections can't be copied. I think they're always either shared or bestowed on one person. And I think Reinhardt just has a lot of them.
You know,
It's
worse,
literally
like
the meme of the guy guzzling all the
class-
water.
Yeah, or it's like a class bully. It's like, hey, did you do your homework? Great, give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm turning it in. You get nothing.
Our homework.
The world's stacking buffs on him.
Yeah, so we don't know if he's copying or taking, but I've always understood it as him getting the power from them.
Poor guy who had the divine protection of salt determining whatever. Ooh, that would have been a
trajectory was
real
never the
bad one to
same.
take away. Yeah,
Mhm.
his life. How is he going to determine salt from sugar now?
Container.
Would that be a
Container.
really annoying
Nah.
divine protection? Would that be omnipresent whenever you're eating? Like, just like, this is salt in here, and there's also sugar in here too. Oh my god!
It's
Why
like,
can't I just
this is a
enjoy
great
this
meal.
meal?
Ah, it's salt. It's like
Wait a
a
minute.
Tastes
text
nothing
pop up.
but sugar and salt.
Like
Wait a
the
minute.
text keeps on
Freezer-
popping up in your brain when you're eating.
Yeah.
Sugar, salt, sugar, salt.
Salt detected.
Wait a
Salt
minute.
detected. Sugar detected. Salt detected.
If the world of ReZero doesn't have an ocean, where does the salt come from?
Salt mines. Salt
Yeah.
flats.
Yeah, salt mines.
Oh, okay, right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
The bigger question, and this is something that Tappei actually made a mistake of, why does the shopkeeper call this the Sand Sea when they have no concept of what the sea is?
Ooh.
Huh.
Unless
Oh.
someone came along and named it the Sand Sea.
Well, that's
Ooh.
I had checked because I thought, well, if it's named the Sand Sea, then that was probably someone else. But it's not. It's just referred to as the sea, as a sea of sand. He's just using it as an adjective.
Hmm. Maybe they have, I don't know, stories about seas?
Why would they have stories about seas?
Yeah,
They
it
don't
wouldn't make any
exist.
sense. The whole concept of it is something that Subaru wasn't even able to explain to Amelia in an earlier arc. I think it's just generally
Yeah.
like Tappei made a small mistake. It got overlooked.
Yeah,
And now it's forever.
I wonder if it's in the light.
Could be the lake.
It's a good question.
lake.
The sea. That's poetic though. Like the sand lake. There's nothing dramatic about that.
Sand Sea
Mm.
honestly has a better alliteration.
Yeah,
In English,
alliteration.
yeah.
Or maybe it was the translation. No.
That was the first thing I checked. Was it the translation? And
Yeah,
it
it's
sure wasn't. He explicitly
also in
uses the word for
Japanese.
sea. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just odd.
Magna?
Huh?
Huh?
All right. Are we ready to jump to chapter 8 though?
Mm-hmm.
Kaz hasn't spoken
wait,
in a bit,
I'll
so
just-
I'm
Oh.
ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just say really quick that I really love the image of just the way how this chapter describes the height of the Pleiades watchtower and it being so tall that its shadow like overlooked like is cast upon the town. Like that's
How
a great
could you
image.
lose that thing?
Mhm.
Yeah,
How could you ever lose
like
sight of it?
that whole that whole last paragraph is really it really sets the tone extremely really well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think while everyone's getting ready to get started, last thing I'll say, just to round up any questions about the upcoming redos of the chapter, we will be using season 3 OSTs. We should be able to start using season 2 again without issue. So the whole reason why I wanted to have no music in the first place is so that we wouldn't worry about copyright strikes on the channel. It's one less thing for me to have to worry about while I'm reading as well, because it's really hard to read and manage to stream and also do music and also do this ever since Discord got rid of Pancake, which was super easy to use, or the other app that we had. It's just one less thing for us to do. I have been listening to the season 3 track, which is why I had to set up things separately so that I could hear what it sounds like with our current chapter. And so I got a couple of OSTs set up for these chapters coming up, which is exciting. We should be able to use them once the season's done. Katakawa always lets go of any issues. It's just when they use it in the series and it's live, the copyrights happen. So all the copyright strikes we got before, they're gone. I checked them this morning. So they just claim them when the anime is going on. This is why I want to rush through, because if they hit season 3, at least if we have enough stuff done, they only give us a little warning, so we don't actually lose much. We lose monetization, which is whatever. We get it back on podcasts and stuff, but they don't shut down the channel. So the faster that we pump out this stuff, the less likely we are to lose Studio Reverie as a channel, which is why I've been going like crazy. If we have the live streams up, that means we can take our time with the final recordings and we can make it perfect. So I have screenshots currently from the teaser trailer that we're going to use. Hopefully we'll get some more sand dune pictures so we can use that from the anime instead of having to make our own. But we have ways to make our own so it works. No, Valtsu, you're about to get chapter 8, I believe. And so any of the OSTs we have, yes, we do have access sometimes to additional tracks as well. Certain animes are a little more strict. ReZero is less strict, which is why we stick to it. And then we also have a sound library that Common has provided for us in the past. We also are working on sound effects too, so that'll take up most of the sound so that we can use tracks very sparingly. And we have season 1 to 3 to use, so we have so much. Yeah. And I've only got up to Arc 6 and Phase 1 of Arc 7, so don't have any idea about Arc 7 yet. I think that's all the key things I had to touch on from before. Everybody's good to go who's voice acting for this round. And Tealdi, you're ready to narrate?
Absolutely.
Woohoo!
One quick thing, just as a point for this, and this is not to like harp or rag on anyone's accents. The word for the bears is courtesan. It's like a borderline street worker kind of person that's just a little bit more fancy for that. Just
Okay.
for
The entertainer, yeah.
Cortisol.
Yeah.
Courtesan.
Cortisol.
Okie
close.
That's something you put on itchiness.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
Which might be caused by a courtesan. So, I see where they got
Hey, wordplay.
I'm glad you were thinking the exact same thing, Tony.
I got you.
All right. Well, Tealdi, when you're ready, take it away.
Okie dokie, here we go. Arc 6, Chapter 8. Baptism of the Sand Dunes. The morning of their departure had arrived. One day had been allocated for rest, and it was now 2 days after the prior arrangements and the information gathering. At the entrance to the town of Marula, Subaru and the others had gathered with their respective equipment on, having finished their preparations to cross the sand dunes. Gazing at the dragon carriage, Subaru let out a sigh of admirable.
Wow, this is...
A ground dragon to cross the sand dunes. The gyre species is one that shines on sandy soil. Their species is adapted to sand, wind, and dryness alike, characterized by large figures and a gentle demeanor. You will find that this endemic species has an easy-to-handle nature.
Subaru looked at the ground dragons tied to the dragon carriage with eyes widened. Julius added an explanation. They had to break through the Aguria sand dunes so that they could reach Pleiades' watchtower. The legs of a typical ground dragon would not be capable of dealing with the difficulty of treading that path filled with sand. Therefore, they'd exchanged the ground dragons that had brought them this far via the road, and now would have to use the Gyris species of ground dragons, endemic to this land, to carve open a path.
Endemic, huh? There were water dragons in Prestella too, but wow, the world sure is big.
Folding his arms, Subaru gazed at the yellow-skinned ground dragon connected to the dragon carriage right in front of him. Subaru had already spent more than a year in this world. His initial surprise towards the ground dragons had faded, and he had thought he would never again feel excitement like what he had felt at first. But he'd been too narrow-minded. A yellow ground dragon, with thorn-like scales all over its body, and a flat head. It had a physique similar to Otto's beloved dragon, Frou-Frou, which was of a species with excellent stamina even among ground dragons. Its owner had boasted that it was capable of traveling for 3 days and 3 nights. It would perhaps be similar to the Triceratops that Subaru knew. On the other hand, attempting to examine the ground dragon before him, with knowledge similar to his, would have a person finding the yellow dragon resembling an ankylosaurus. However, their tails were short, so unlikely to be able to be used as a weapon. Also, what was more of a defining characteristic of theirs, more so their skin and general looks, were their feet. Every end of their 4 thick, short legs were round, and their sharp claws acted like spikes which moored their bulking bodies to the ground.
It sure does look like their hooves can cause permanent damage to anything they step on.
The grains found in the Ogorius sand dunes are fine particles. Without feet like this, there would be the possibility of slipping off slopes. People say that the gyre species' feet changed to adapt that.
So they adapted to the desert areas, eh? So now we have replacements for horses and camels, but what about water dragons? Thinking back, it's not like I've seen animals pull boats back to the original world.
He went into deep thought, and a swan boat came to Subaru's mind. But that was just a boat imitating the form of swan, and ran on man-made power. He'd never heard of a custom in which crocodiles or hippos pulled on boats, so he couldn't think of any replacement for water dragons. Even beyond that,
These dragons adapted to sandy soil are going there, but can we really bring my patrichet to a place like that? Can't do anything unreasonable with the lady of the camp.
Your beloved dragon belongs to the Diana species, which is considered the ancestor of all ground dragons. The founding forefather dragon, dominant on land, sea, and air, is present in her lineage. It has excellent adaptability no matter what the environment is. Unfortunately, my Shaknar will have to be left at the town.
Julius answered Subaru's question, then looked up toward the inn with a look of loneliness. Shaknar was Julius's beautiful, beloved, blue-skinned ground dragon. It was a loving dragon, but it had forgotten about Julius, who had had his name eaten by gluttony. However, this well-trained dragon would be polite to anyone that rode it, at all times. Even at their one-way introduction at Bristella, it had been accepting of Julius right away, and it seemed that during the month-and-a-half-long trip, an intimate bond much like the one from before had been formed. For that very reason, he had what one could call feelings of shame for leaving that beloved dragon at the town.
Nevertheless, for your beloved dragon to be the lady you use most out of all the people around you, I do not know if I should praise you for knowing how to use your ground dragon, or if I should complain about your evaluation of the women around you.
Actually, you shouldn't make light of how much feminine charm Patrichet has.
Moment, Julius had looked emotional, and had covered that up with a cutting remark. Subaru could sense those feelings, and had quickly gone along with it. Seeing that, Julius went to greet the ground dragon whose reins he would be holding. In response, Subaru turned to the dragon carriage, stepped towards it, and knocked on the door.
So, the interior of the dragon carriage will be left as is, but the wheels have been replaced and...
Subaru inspected the remodeled dragon carriage before there was an answer to his knock. The only changes that stood out, however, were in the carriage's lower body. The wheels and window frames had been installed with protections against the sand wind. This dragon carriage, which had been devised for long-distance journeys, was something like an RV with its multi-purpose features. Inside and at the front of the carriage, there was a row of seats, and the middle and back sides were exceptionally good to simply relax. On top of it ensuring comfort, it could hold up to 10 people. Subaru had honestly been surprised by how the dragon carriage easily surpassed his initial expectations.
Even without any electricity or electrical appliances, magic stones are able to replace those tools. Humans really are creatures that seek convenience anywhere.
I do not know what you are talking about so seriously, but are the preparations finished, Barasu?
While he puzzled at the exterior, the dragon carriage's door opened, and a cold voice poured down at the same time. Turning around, there was Ram, standing up from the seat closest to the door, looking down on Subaru.
Well, the other preparations were finished yesterday, so it's ready. Next we've got to prepare our hearts and bodies, but I'm also done with that. Are you?
Let's see. Considering how many days we will be in this carriage, no amount of care will quell the feeling of lack of safety. Rom will not cry for help like a delicate person in the middle of the sand dunes, even if attacked.
It'll be fine. Don't worry.
Ram narrowed her eyes and gave Subaru a meaningful look. Emilia, having heard them speaking, showed her face. She seemed to have been cleaning the back of the carriage before walking up to Ram and placing a hand on her shoulder.
No matter what attacks us, I'll protect everyone in here. Subaru and Julius will be there outside too. So we got everything covered.
You are reassuring as always. See? Look, Ram. Emilia-tan agrees, so don't worry.
Yes, Emilia-sama, Ram is very reassured as well. However, it will not just be malicious beings that attack us. Among us, there are also those with evil desires.
Spoke meaningful words, while directing a meaningful look at Subaru. Once Subaru understood Ram's look and the underlying message in her words, he frowned immediately.
You're still doubting me like that? Even after spending close to 1 month of peaceful nights? There's no way I could do something like that with you around. I don't have that type of courage.
It is pathetic how you are insisting that with such a loud voice. It is not unthinkable for you to lose control of yourself because of the beauty within the carriage. Rom is always afraid. Sympathize with a maiden's heart.
Always afraid? Not always threatening people?
Rom basically repeating the saying that boys and girls should be separated once they turn 7 caused Subaru's voice to shake. Incidentally, Amelia did nothing but tilt her head in confusion. Amelia was EMT, and Rom was being insolent, same as always. However, there was something bothering him, and Subaru scratched his head energetically.
Nay, Summer. Are you doing alright, physically?
Weird question. Is something wrong?
Your worry is unfounded, but is mine? I just want to make sure.
What a cheeky Barasu, showing such concern.
She did not have a pale face, and it didn't seem like she was having trouble breathing, and while Rom appeared to be acting like her usual self, she had not denied Subaru's words. She did not act tough, nor had she attempted to hide it. In that sense, Rom was being surprisingly sincere.
Looks like your wicked tongue doesn't have its usual sharpness. If your body's condition really is bad, then...
After having spent 20 days to reach this place, you expect me to stomp my feet with the objective this close at hand? It is the same as usual, but today you are being particularly ridiculous.
Ram, don't speak like that.
Rom interrupted Subaru, directing him an even fiercer look. Amelia raised her eyebrows at that girl's behavior, putting hands on her hips like she was angry. Standing next to Ram, she pointed her hand towards Subaru while being next to Ram and spoke.
Subaru is worried about you, Ram. I am too. Every day I'm giving you the treatment Roswell told me about. But...
I'm still unsure if you can call it treatment, but it's not like it's your specialty. Even if Amelia-tan and Bayako both do it, they can't do it as well as Roswell.
Not trying to use that as a reason. I do not want to be a hindrance.
We're worried, you know?
If you were the usual Barasu, then I could fool you.
You aren't the usual Ram, so you can't fool me.
They weren't inflammatory tit-for-tat words, nor were they comebacks. Regardless, there was a quiet exchange of words, and Rom bit her lips, seemingly displeased at the way Subaru spoke. However, there was a lack of vigor in the eyes she stared at him with. She probably was aware of it herself. Rom let out a sigh and looked inside of the carriage. There was a wheelchair right next to her seat, a single girl placed in it. The space had been remodeled to allow the wheelchair to be placed there, by removing the dragon carriage's seat. Their interactions did not disturb the sleeping girl, and so she remained there, in slumber.
I shall not be left behind. Also, it's not like my pain will improve if I do. In fact, being separated from Amelia-sama with how I am now would put my life at risk. You trying to kill me?
Calm down. I never even said a single word about leaving you behind since the beginning. Also, if you were to be left behind, Amelia-tan would be too.
Subaru, there's no way I'd let that happen.
Like I said, it's fine. I just want to check on Ram.
What do you want to check?
Didn't I say it?
Subaru gave a wry smile, as his earlier words had been forgotten because they had repeatedly jumped to conclusions. Seeing Amelia and Rom exchanging doubtful glances, Subaru continued.
Ram, we can tell that you aren't your usual self. So, if there's something wrong, say it. Don't try to hide stuff and fool us. Even if you do stuff like that, we'll still help you. Even if you don't like it.
Huh.
Pointed his finger at Rom and affirmed that. Rom made a rare look of shame. Amelia put her hand on her mouth at her side and let out a smile unintentionally, unable to stop herself. That first urge to laugh, however, was warded off, and Amelia merely relaxed her lips, looking pleased.
I think that side of Subaru is really nice.
Did you just fall in love with me again?
Don't talk like that with Rem sleeping in front of you, women's toxic enemy.
Woman's toxic enemy? Not just woman's enemy!
Rom snorted her nose with a huh, prompting Subaru's voice to trail off into the distance. After that, she stretched her slender legs and recklessly tried to kick Subaru off of the dragon carriage's steps.
Oh, hey! What are you doing? I'm going to fall!
Putting aside your falling, Barasu should normally be outside, not inside. Mount the primal ground dragon, and frantically guarantee our carriage's safety. Go on. Hurry.
What do you mean, hurry? Listen to what I have to...
I have listened to what I must, so go.
Rom asserted herself with a firm voice and delivered an even firmer kick. Having gotten a punt to the thigh, Subaru descended in dejection, and just before he stepped away from the dragon carriage, he exchanged looks with Amelia. She responded to him by giving an acknowledging gesture with her chin, which had an "I understand" meaning.
Guess it's fine for now. But either way, you should... Go!
Go!
A kick that felt like a surprise attack connected with his solar plexus, and Subaru fell off the dragon. Rom hurriedly shut the carriage's door, suddenly looking at Amelia as she let out a sigh. Then she spoke.
Huh. Amelia-sama, why are you making that look?
No, it's nothing. But I just thought about how you're kind of cute.
That is a surprising opinion. How cheeky of Amelia-sama.
Being teased, Rom's tongue slipped, eliciting a rare sight of her cheeks being stiffened to be seen. Amelia witnessed that change in Rom's facial expression and smiled, appearing to become more and more happy.
Finally feel like showing that face to me too? The one you always show to Subaru?
It was a slip of the mind. Please forgive my impoliteness.
I'm not really angry. I'm actually a little happy. It almost feels like you're trusting me when you do that. I was a little jealous of Subaru.
Rom kept silent for a bit in response to Amelia's innocent reply. Immediately after that, with a dumbfounded look while smoothing her hair... Let me try that again. Immediately after that, with a dumbfounded look while smoothing her hair, Rom said,
Amelia-sama, you have changed as well. When we first met, you only seemed like someone with resolve that was hard, but fragile. Like glass.
Do I look a little stronger now?
Now, I think you are like sweet glass turned into candy.
Wow, Ram. You're harsh.
Amelia was smacked by Rom's abusive words, and her voice finally boomed from being unable to bear it. And in that manner, the girls resumed talking with each other inside the dragon carriage. After a few hours, the conquest of the Auguria sand dunes began. They had become acquainted with the sandy soil after 1 hour in the dragon carriage. They were approximately 10 kilometers east of the town of Marula. With the dry sand and miasma-laden wind growing stronger, and the prairie at their feet changing to desert, they had finally entered the Auguria sand dunes proper. Their setup was made up of one dragon carriage and a ground dragon of the Gyrus species to pull it. Running off to the side was Subaru riding Patrichet, trekking along the sandy soil. The flat-faced ground dragon wasn't fast, but its heavy pacing gave off a feeling of stability. At first, Patrichet had seemed wary of her weird companion, but after a few hours of traveling together, it was as if she'd found a compromise with her partner, and dissatisfaction was not to be found on her highly prideful face. If I had to describe it, then I'd probably say that the dissatisfaction of this ground dragon is because of Betty, in fact. It was Beatrice, completely settled in Subaru's arms. While holding the bridle and onto the curled-up girl, Subaru said, no, as he shook his head.
That's not right! Patrichet isn't such an intolerant dragon.
Subaru, it'd be wise of you to be more careful of how you perceive those around you, I suppose. She let out those words, grabbing onto the edge of her skirt as she sat sideways on the jet-black ground dragon. Subaru's dragon riding skills were a lot better than they were before. Up to this point, he had been simply spoiled by Patrichet's consideration, but now he was at the level of a dragon rider apprentice. He sat on the saddle and held onto the bridle. Beatrice was in front of him, and he made sure to hold on to her from behind. They almost looked like experts at riding together. Of course, the only ground dragon Subaru would ride was Patrichet, and this wasn't the first time he rode her along with Beatrice. Thus, Beatrice was being too paranoid, no matter how he looked at it. That's what he wanted to say. Very prideful ground dragons don't want to let anyone other than their owner ride them, in fact. This ground dragon of Subaru's is extraordinary, one of a kind, I suppose. If I were alone, she definitely wouldn't let me ride her, in fact.
Isn't that just because you're bad at riding ground dragons?
If that was the reason, then you getting close with this ground dragon wouldn't make sense, I suppose. It was just as she said. If Patrichet liked a person based on their dragon riding skills, then Subaru should have failed the first test. Since that had not come to pass, there was a reason as to why this lady approved of Subaru. And in truth, Patrichet's actual treatment towards everyone but Subaru was relatively harsh.
Well, not knowing why you're liked really is a bad thing.
True, in fact. Subaru doesn't have the looks of being liked for no reason, I suppose.
In other words, you have firm reasons to love me?
Of course, Betty is... Just what are you trying to make me say? They were glued together, so we couldn't dodge Beatrice's assault, her face beet red. While getting struck lightly by her weak palm, Subaru said, "Whoa, whoa," in an attempt to appease Beatrice. Then, Patrichet raised her upper body and shook them, as if displeased with the behavior they were displaying on her back.
Oh, what the?
As she had set her posture in a way that was like doing a wheelie on a bike, Subaru reflexively held tight onto Beatrice. Normally, they would not feel any swaying from the dragon, or even the wind, because of the divine protection of wind evasion. But certain extreme movements, like the one just now, would have effect, as well as things like angle changes from sudden turning. The harassment was based on understanding of those characteristics. When Subaru put in his objection and glared at the back of Patrichet's head, the ground dragon looked at Subaru and Beatrice for a second, squinting her eyes as if saying, "You'll bite your tongue."
She's kinda like Ram, considering just how haughty she is. Seems like they'd get along, surprisingly.
Maybe they'd clash with each other, and they wouldn't come to an agreement at all, I suppose. Subaru and Beatrice exchanged deep thoughts and nodded at each other. Then...
Subaru, Beatrice-sama, it is splendid seeing you guys being friendly with each other, but this would be a good time to put yourselves together in earnest.
A voice speaking out from the side was sent towards the two, who acted relaxedly. At the driver box of the dragon carriage traveling alongside them, there was Julius, in charge of the reins. Rather than the fact that he was not alone, it seemed that the role of coachman was unpleasant and not very fitting for Julius. But he didn't act like he cared about it. That being said, perhaps he did not have time to worry about that. Either way, at his side there was...
I don't mind Oni-san and Beatrice-chan being friendly with each other, but if I'm ignored too much, I'll pout.
Having stated those words, giving them a look that didn't fit her appearance, Meili, sitting. Meili was an essential member to deal with the witch beasts, and they would have to always use her for conquering the Agoria sand dunes. Thus, as a lookout for the witch beasts living at the sand dunes, Meili was at the place where it would be easiest for her to deal with them. In other words, she was standing by the driver box at the front of the dragon carriage. Julius took up the role of staving off her boredom.
You have the knight next to your side to escort you. He's much more smart, stylish, and elegant than me.
I didn't get more than half of what you've said. Plus, I'm fine with Knight-sama. I'm unhappy with Oni-chan.
With me?
Playing with her braided hair, Meili glared at Subaru, her cheeks swollen in a pout.
Onisan made me come along, so he must be forced to deal with me.
Don't say such unreasonable, childish things. As you can see, that place is filled with Bearco, right?
Appeared to shrug her shoulders in resentment, and Subaru looked at Meili again. Pouting was a suitable reaction for her age, but her mood would have a big influence from now on down the road. Considering that, it would be bold to make light of Meili. However, saying that really would make things unmanageable.
You're quite right. However, we'll have you fulfill your role first before you could say if it's a right or a duty.
My role?
We'll be entering the most favoured Auguria sand dunes soon. I don't think the witch beasts will suddenly roar when we enter them, but when it does happen, calming them down will be up to you, Meili. You get that, right?
Yes. For someone who spoils Beatrice-chan, Onisan sure is a bully.
He wasn't being a bully to her, but even if he was taken as one, he would just have to cajole her. Subaru felt like Beatrice seemed satisfied, looking at her with a side glance, and then raised his hand at Julius. After that, Julius quietly acknowledged, gesturing with his chin. Unfortunately for him, he would have to be the little lady's sycophant. Moreover, Subaru.
Oh, I see it.
Beatrice called out to him quietly, while Patricia gave a faint neigh as she glared at what lay in front. Those actions brought back his focus, and Subaru squinted. He saw the tower, its contours so clear that it would be impossible to miss them from Marula. Likewise, the surface of the sand surrounding that tower was visible. Their magnificent arrival to the maze of sand surrounding the Pleiades watchtower, the Auguria sand dunes. In the Auguria sand dunes, there was a particularly famous sand time, in which the sand wind would blow particularly strong. The sand wind that would blow 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and night, would carry sand and miasma from the east towards the west, a disaster that would silently creep up on people. This sand wind would be especially strong at the midnight hour, and it would continue to blow for a few hours. As it was pretty much midnight, so at this time when the sand wind blew, their movement would be stifled. Thus, they would conquer the Auguria sand dunes during the day, little by little, with a few hours of break in the morning and afternoon, at the times the sand wind would blow. The grains of sand that covered the ground were minuscule, and just like the rumors had stated, it was terribly difficult to keep their footing, causing them to trip. Their march was slow as a crawl, an irritating situation all around. There was something about that situation which disappointed Subaru. That was...
There's the pain of this sand wind, not to mention the poor footing, but it isn't as bad as I thought.
Face away from the wind blowing, he pulled up the mouthcloth to secure his breathing. He faintly felt his teeth biting the sand, but this type of baptism was not very different from his time at Marula. The flying sand created a view of yellow, and he felt the sand tickling him in his clothes. But that was as far as its effects went. The fury of the dunes was insignificant.
When I first heard about the dunes, I even prepared myself on the assumption that it'd be deadly.
Because of the natural environment that there's nothing green in here, in fact. The miasma kills anything and everything, so it only has this sort of scenery spread out, I suppose. That is why rain even pours on these sand dunes, and the temperature doesn't go extremely out of control, in fact. Subaru had a strong impression of the desert being a red-hot hell. He'd never stepped foot into a desert back in his other world, but in mediums like games and manga, the deserts all yielded impressions of hot sand. For that reason, the severity of the Auguria sand dunes was pleasant in comparison to what he had initially imagined.
It wasn't hot or cold at the nearest town, so I guess it'd be weird for the sand dunes to be an extremely hot hell. So, We only need to be careful of the wind and the witch beasts.
Is getting lost, I suppose. One worry had disappeared, but Beatrice pulled on Subaru's feelings of optimism. In response to the point made by the girl in his arms, Subaru looked forward while being careful of the wind. The watchtower, its existence ever present, looms still in Subaru's line of sight.
You bring up the question of getting lost, but it seems unnatural to miss that thing.
Betty thinks so too, in fact. However, it wouldn't be surprising if something happened, I suppose. I don't know what type of cheat this sage is, but the fact that nobody has ever reached them is proof, in fact. Of course, Subaru had no intentions of underestimating things. Realistically speaking, it would be unlikely that they would miss their target considering it was a structure that huge, never mind getting lost. However, any prior challengers would have most likely thought the same thing. Despite those thoughts in mind, he figured that there should have been a reason as to why they had still not reached it. Anything could happen. Just like Beatrice had pointed out, this was that sort of witchy place.
About that, I guess it's about time we set up the next insurance plan.
Holding his breath, Subaru looked back at the terrain they had just traversed. On the sandy soil, the footsteps of Patrichet, on whom Subaru and Beatrice were riding, had been left behind, one by one. However, only the very latest ones would remain. And in time, too, they would be washed away, replaced and hidden by the sand. Nature itself had concocted such a natural trap. Never mind the watchtower at the front. The path they had traveled thus far would be hidden from them in exiguous fashion. However, that would only be true if these people were only able to take normal measures.
Seems like the previous one's out of sight. All right, this is a good time.
Subaru pulled on the bridle, directing Patrichet to veer towards the dragon carriage running parallel to them. The wheels of the dragon carriage also left traces, as did the ground dragon's spike-shaped footprints, but those were subjected to the same conditions as Patrichet's. Thus, they had to devise something as a mark to follow.
Amelia time, please!
Yeah, got it!
When he knocked on the dragon carriage from the outside, Amelia answered and showed up on the other side of the door. Amelia's whole body had been covered with a white robe for the sand, and Subaru, behind her, was gazing and pointing at something in the far distance, a certain something that was faintly reflected in his eyes.
I'm sorry for working you so hard, but please help us out, Sensei!
Well, I've got Subaru watching me, so it's not a big problem. What do you mean by sensei?
It's the template you use when making a request. Oh, and please.
Got it. I've been requested. Hey!
A brief, light-hearted exchange. She looked at the place Subaru was pointing towards. Amelia raised a listless shouting voice, the look in her eyes too cute to call a glare, and her magical power surged. Immediately after, an enormous amount of mana swirled into Amelia's palm, and the magical power dashed swiftly through the sky, giving off the sense that its power increased as it accelerated. The sound it produced was like the very air had exploded, and it resounded throughout the vicinity. And then, after a few seconds, a huge ice tower stood on the path of the sandy plain.
Yeah, that was good.
Confirming that the task was finished, Amelia smiled, looking somewhat satisfied with herself. It wasn't comparable in size to the Pleiades watchtower, but it was still a very conspicuous silhouette for the Agoria sand dunes. And so, an ice tower had been erected here and there along the route Subaru and the others had taken inside the Agoria sand dunes, in successive intervals such as they would not lose sight of the path.
The footprints can't work as markers, but some can be made with a more conspicuous method. This is how to use magic, eh?
Even so, Subaru's plan is very impressive. Nice thinking.
This method wouldn't be any good if the sand dunes were hot.
Amelia created with her magic was fragile to temperature, perhaps because it didn't go against the laws of nature. Based on that knowledge, Were this a genuine desert, then maybe such a forbidden move would not have worked. However, it was a valid plan in these sand dunes. Amelia's standing ice tower was functioning as a landmark without a hitch. Worst case scenario, if something really did happen that would force them to withdrawal, they should be able to follow them and retreat.
This tower. Yeah, it looks stable to stand on, but I'm still scared of it possibly toppling over, though. Since its foundation seems to be on something fluid.
I think it's been pinned to the ground as hard as possible, so it's all hunky-dory. You're worried?
Who even says hunky-dory these days? Alright.
Sighed his worry by teasing Amelia and raised his head. Amelia seemed a little displeased with that response, and he responded to her with a wry smile. After that, he looked over Amelia's shoulder, towards the inside of the dragon carriage behind her. For everyone inside, it should be the same as usual, but there was one person that he would rather not see remaining the same.
Where's Anastasia?
What is it, Natsuki-kun? Looking for me?
Immediately after his gaze had wandered, Subaru jumped upon being called by a person's voice. Cutting into his line of sight, Anastasia peeked out from a bit to the side of Amelia. She looked down on a surprised Subaru, her teal eyes squinted ever so slightly.
No need to get startled that much. Ain't I deliberately staying inside?
I know that you were inside, but it was shocking because I didn't expect you to appear from Amelia's armpit like you're growing out of it.
Hey, Subaru! I really didn't like the way you said that. Unusual for me, too. To be annoyed by something like that. What a coincidence.
Amelia and Anastasia showing some distaste, Subaru got back on track. There was Beatrice shrugging her shoulders in his arms, but he turned to Anastasia for now.
We'll be relying on your knowledge to conquer the sand dunes. Please guide us well, okay?
Natsuki-kun sure is a worrywart. I'll be with ya, so the outcome of this journey is the same for the two of us. There's no way I'd try to cut corners, you know? Don't you worry.
Is it possible for someone to believe a fox so nonchalantly, I suppose? Replying to Anastasia's words, Beatrice spoke with a voice so low that it could only be heard by Subaru. He was in complete agreement, but it would be wrong to provoke her by using that basis. If he was going to say that, then opting to go on this campaign towards the watchtower would have been a mistake in the first place. As of now, they should be using up all their strength to fulfill their respective roles without complaining.
Right. Anastasia.
Yes, Natsuki-kun? If something happens, I'll let Julius know. And once we come near that place Echidna spoke about, I'll report that too. Don't worry, yeah?
Anastasia, or rather Aridna, did not seem displeased by Subaru's cynical beckoning. It seemed like there would be no problem moving forward like this, for the moment being.
It seems like the wind has gotten stronger. Subaru, if there's nothing else, then I'm going to close it, but...
Go ahead, Amelia-tan. I'll leave the people inside up to you.
Yeah, leave it to me. Subaru, you'll be nice to Beatrice, too.
To worry about that, I suppose. I'm satisfied, in fact. Amelia put her hand on the door, and after an exchange of words, she went back inside and left. Beatrice responded to Amelia's last joke with a light remark. The latter's smile disappeared, blocked by the door. She now went around to the front of the dragon carriage, appearing next to the driver's box.
It appears like Amelia-sama's landmarks are working properly. You're as clever as always.
You can call it guile, you know.
I shan't. I'm jealous of your adaptability, being able to come up with ideas myself and others cannot with such ease. I really cannot craft these sort of evil ways.
Guile sounds cuter than evil ways!
Sat on the driver's box, and he had a faint smile on his face, so faint that it was barely visible. A white cloth was wrapped around his handsome face, so his expression couldn't be seen. But even then, as they had been talking with each other this past month, Subaru could understand how much he was joking based on the tone of his voice.
Meili, how about you? Doing your job?
You're gonna ask me that? Oni-san hasn't ran into a single bad animal chance even once, and neither has the dragon carriage. Is that not proof of me working?
Upon peeking into the driver's box, he saw Meili pouting, just as he expected. She was also wearing a cloak around her head because of the sand wind, and she answered Subaru's questions with a displeased-sounding voice. In reaction to Meili's answer, Subaru wiped the sand off his head while regarding the path ahead.
Even if you say that, it's hard to see the results of your hard work. I don't know if the witch bees haven't showed up because of you, or if they just aren't around here.
So that's what you're gonna say?
Subaru said a careless thing, being disappointed by the high anticipations he possessed, as so far they had not faced any obstacles other than the sand and the wind. Immediately, Meili spoke with a low-toned voice. Putting her cheeks in between her hands as if thinking of something as she sunk into silence. Subaru honestly had a bad feeling about that.
Subaru, apologize to her. It is clear that you have just said something improper.
You don't have to tell me. I know. Meili! I kinda was a bit mean now. Well, not kinda, completely. Please don't be in a bad mood. I wasn't trying to be mean.
Okay, it's fine. It's not like I'm mad or anything, but I think there's a reason for what Oni-san said too.
Oh! That's good! Thankfully, you are much more mature than you look.
So I'll make it clear, that's why I'm here.
Meili interrupted Subaru's explanation and apology, and uttered some extremely disturbing words. The unsettling sound caused Subaru and Julius to look at each other, and hurried to form a sentence that would appease her. It was immediately after that. Patrichet and the dragon carriage's ground dragon both stepped hard on the ground, halting their movement. The ground dragon's instincts had rapidly sensed something approaching them, alerting their master, the one holding the reins. Then, Subaru and Julius opened their eyes at the same time. There, they saw it.
Huh?
In front of their eyes, the sandy surface suddenly began wriggling as if it possessed a will of its own, and something wriggling immediately came crawling out from beneath the sands. A terrifying animal, with a large amount of sand clinging onto its whole body, let out an unbelievably piercing cry from its gigantic mouth. Neither arms nor legs were present on its body, and the way it bent its long and fat body back and forth was reminiscent of a snake. However, it had slimy-looking skin, its color similar to that of the sand, patterned with carved, equidistant lateral stripes, carrying along a horrible stench. Subaru only noticed its true identity once he heard of the thing lowered. Subaru only noticed its true identity once the head of the thing lowered. It was no snake. This was an earthworm. Its torso was so massive that Subaru could not wrap his arms around it. In fact, it seemed that its head and mouth were large enough to swallow 4 or 5 humans whole. The stink surrounding it was similar to a rotten smell, and the saliva, dripping from maw lined with fine teeth, made noise as it evaporated on the sand. The eyeless head turned towards them, acting as if it was sniffing a smell. At this moment, Subaru had completely forgotten about breathing. He also felt Patrichet's thoughts blanking, being transmitted across the bridle, and Beatrice grabbed strongly onto Subaru's clothes while still in his arms. As soon as he thought of its sense of smell, Subaru remembered the smell of the witch that he had carried. If the witch beast reacted to that, something else reacted to it. This group would be...
Ah, jeez! You stink! Hurry up and leave! Get lost!
In the presence of Subaru and the others who could not avoid letting their fear show, Meili let out an adequate voice. Those words caused the gigantic earthworm to turn towards Meili, but he immediately listened to that little girl's orders, and the giant body crawled back into the hole it had dug. A few seconds later, the hole that the earthworm came from had been completely covered with sand, and only silence reigned within the area.
That was a sand earthworm, most likely. It is a witch beast that prefers to lurk beneath sandy soil, but it was a little bigger than I thought.
A little? How little?
To my knowledge, I thought that they would have been as big as a male adult's arms.
Even if the earthworm that appeared was of that size, it would still be big enough to pose a grotesque threat. But that sand earthworm was hundreds to thousands of times larger than the one in Julius's knowledge. It was said that the witch beasts native to the Auguria sand dunes were more ferocious, but perhaps they should have considered the difference in scale as well. Anyhow,
What was that loud voice?
a small window belonging to the dragon carriage opened, and Amelia showed her face from the window that connected the driver box to the inside of the carriage. Even if she had not witnessed the sand earthworm, she would have heard the witch beast's roar. Amelia looked worried, but Subaru was incapable of speaking right away. Then Meili took Subaru's place as he tensed up and faced Amelia.
No need to worry. I just wanted to let you guys know how blessed you are because you don't need to worry about a thing.
Jeez! We really can't thank you enough, matey-san!
He loosened up thanks to Meili's words, and Subaru gave her a generous compliment that came from the bottom of his heart. Amelia seemed astonished at that change. After Meili's own surprise, she immediately appeared to be satisfied.
Really? You sure? Does Oni-san see... Ugh. Does Oni-san see me in a new light now?
Yeah, I seriously respect you. I sincerely felt just how dangerous this place would be had you not come along. The Auguria sand dunes are scary! Scary!
He now understood one reason as to why the many reckless adventurers had not come back after daring to conquer this place. Indeed, it was certainly a place for reckless people. It was the absurdity of fooling themselves by believing that the baptism of the sand dunes would be easy. Hooray for peace. Peace is the best.
You're flattering her quite a lot, I suppose. Disgusting, in fact.
Shut up! Weren't you scared out of your wits too? Scary.
Betty along with Subaru because you were nervous, I suppose. Don't get the wrong idea, in fact.
Don't act so tough. You pissed yourself a little just like I did. Right? I can tell.
Like a comedy episode, but nobody could blame them for it at the time. It seemed like witch beasts would approach them if they caused a fuss, but the power of the being who conquered that had been adequately proven. Thus, even Julius did not attempt to stop their quarrel. However, he simply readjusted his consciousness, realizing that the ice they were walking on was thinner than he imagined. This was the first day of the conquering of the sand dunes, to which they could look back as having been worth it. Suddenly, light ran through the sky and penetrated the wind. With a violent sound, the ice tower shattered in half and crumbled, having been hit directly. The pulverized ice tower immediately returned to mana, and every little bit of it that fell onto the surface was swallowed by the sand, disappearing from the world without any ruin, without a trace. The light continued several more times, darting through the sky in succession. Coincidentally, the number matched the number of times the silver-haired girl had established an ice tower. Nobody knew what that meant at this point of time. However, the conquest of the Labyrinth of Sand was by no means a simple matter. That much was an established fact. Chapter end.
Good job, everyone.
Dun dun dun.
Patty, patty.
Long chapter.
Blah.
Great
Yeah,
work.
that was long.
Oh yeah.
It's a big one.
La 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 la. But y'all crushed.
I love that Melee's just like, let me just pull us into Dune real quick, just to show you what I'm really here for.
Oh,
Here's
you don't
big
think I'm
worm.
doing
Listen, I
anything?
got
Let me.
It has
Let
to
me
be.
fix that for you.
There's some of my favourite lines in the whole series, just randomly in this chapter. Like the narration line, "Hooray for peace! Peace is the best," has to be one of the funniest fucking narration lines out there.
Peace is the best.
I saw that coming, and I was like, "Ooh, that's fun."
Pepe is wild with what he writes sometimes.
Common, excellent work with your screaming. Is your throat okay?
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Okay, good. I really enjoyed that blood halfway through.
Gluttony.
Yeah, sometimes it
Colin.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colin, I am continuously astounded by your Melee performance. You're stealing the show. If I say so myself,
Patchy,
like
patchy,
it's
patchy.
fantastic.
You're doing amazing.
It's impeccable.
Yeah.
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 Greeny, that sandworm sound was perfect.
Yeah.
Look,
What? Can you
I
redo
was
it?
trying
What
to.
does a worm sound like? You know what? That's canon now. Worms sound like that.
I was genuinely so dumbfounded when I did it. I was trying to emulate the Lethal Company one, and then when I did it, I'm like, nope, I screwed up.
It was so good. Don't
You
worry.
know what? I cooked.
I'm gonna redo that. Everyone did fantastic today. Thank you.
I cannot believe Subaru
I didn't know
self-recorded.
Beatrice was in here, so sorry for the little
Oh, so sorry. I
brain
would have
fart.
helped
I
you
froze
cover.
up, and I was like, Beatrice. Nah, it's fine. It's like, oh, Beatrice.
How do we do that?
Here we go.
I can't believe Subaru's self-reported. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pissed yourself too,
Thank
right?
you.
Excuse you.
I suppose. Crazy. Crazy ass line.
That is a quote that will stand the test of time. Piss, I suppose?
Piss, I
Arc
suppose.
returns.
Oh god.
It's almost as good as the piss
It's
arc.
always with Betty too. Yeah, it's always with her.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's always with her. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the one who wanted to accompany him to the restroom, but. Jesus Christ. Piss, I suppose.
And of course, that line comes up just as one of the minions walks by behind me. It's like, well, too late now.
Teaching them young.
Well, I gotta let her rip.
Yeah, it's like you hear this word, you know you're not supposed to say this word. It's fine.
Everything is okay.
Yeah. This is one of the no-no
Piss,
words.
I suppose,
What
being
it
the last
means, you
line
don't use it.
before.
We're just giving
Yeah,
you
before
more
everything
and
goes
more
to shit.
learning moments. You're welcome.
We're here to help.
And make things worse.
Really, it's the same thing after a while.
So, looks like they are gonna be very, very lost, and that their very conspicuous way of tracking where they are is not working.
Oh, how they found out about it. It was so stealthy.
Yeah,
It made
like,
them so easy to notice.
yeah. I wonder who else will notice that.
No one of consequence. Puh.
Maybe the
Nope.
person that's watching us from the Pleiades watchtower.
Who?
Oh.
Who's that?
Couldn't tell. Couldn't tell.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who's the watchtower?
Who?
Who?
I'm excited to
Wait.
get that person in for us. They're ready to come back to the series again as well. It's nice to have staff back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wait, you're telling me that the Pleiades watchtower is not made out of watches?
Tick tock, it's a clock. We're gonna bring back
Maybe, who knows?
the clock fanfic again, just for Chase.
Oh god.
The what fanfic?
The one where they go into the real world and there's clocks.
Clocks?
Or time telling. I haven't read it
That's
fully
so-
because we were never allowed to.
That's so specific.
It's
Never
it was,
allowed to?
Chase,
It was
help
a
me.
specific fanfic that we used to read back in the day whenever we had downtime, and it was just, what if everyone was isekai to, like reverse isekai to Subaru's world with him from the immediate camp? But it was a fan fiction that would like go into extreme exposition and depth about things that, you know, the average reader would know about, but they would be explaining it all to all of the new people in this world, and it was just driving me insane reading it, because it's like, oh my god, this is going against every writing principle I know in my heart. This hurts so much.
So this is how clocks work. So if you open them up, there's gears inside.
Literally, it's like that.
No. Yeah, I can
Something
imagine.
made of metal.
It's metal, I suppose.
Now, if you wrote it, we don't hate it. It's just hilarious to read out loud.
Like Rom's dialogue was.
Yes. Precisely.
Subaru, what is communism,
Just
I
like
suppose?
Busted. Subaru, what is Marx, I suppose?
It's like felt, I suppose. Alright, I'm sick.
Sounds more like an anarchist.
Anarchist, yeah.
Right. Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Is she the closest to communism though among like the
Oh my god.
the candidates?
I think
Would
it's
that be
Amelia.
Amelia,
I
who's
think it's
closest.
Yeah, that'd be
technically
Amelia.
Amelia.
Everyone
actually.
is
Everyone's
Even though
on
it's
top.
not really communism.
What I have, you
But-
have. We should all have the same things.
We should all be equal.
I always knew Subaru loved communism.
Subaru
They're
and
not
Marx?
appas, they're apples.
The workers shall control the means of production, Subaru.
That's why he's creating mayonnaise. He has to bring his empire up.
There has to be industrialization before there can be communism, guys. Come on, first step.
Yes. First, we have to cook. What is this methamphetamine, I suppose?
Oh my god! It's the good shit, Bearco.
Good shit.
That's how he fixes his gate. That will restore his gate.
Yeah.
Like grinding up a unicorn horn and snorting it. Go for it.
Is it magical meth?
Yes? I feel like that's the shit Roswell would have on hand.
Oh my god.
Pocket
That
meth?
would explain a lot.
That would explain a lot.
No, I didn't even think of that. All the potential for weird magical drugs in the ReZero world and how scary that is. Like,
Bizarre.
what?
I mean, Subaru uses like magic mushrooms in Arc 2, doesn't he, to get like mana
Yeah.
back?
Yeah,
Or,
he
like
does.
little
Yeah.
berries.
Yeah.
Boko fruit.
Yeah, Boko fruit.
Uh-huh.
They're literal magic mushrooms.
Yeah, there is that spoiled, but
La la la.
I love drugs. I love drugs in my fantasy series.
We're just
That was
gonna get that one clip. I love drugs, so we'll just isolate that.
Hey!
Yeah, well, let's break from that a bit.
Thus Reverie ended.
Yeah.
And thus, Reverie was cancelled.
Uh,
I love this conversation. This is great.
Reverie After Dark.
Reverie after.
We've lost our minds.
ReZero, a real-time
The miasma,
ReZero
it's
real-time
hitting.
fandom.
Oh, the miasma's hitting different, guys. Ooh. Guys, it's not me. It's the miasma.
That stuff does change who you are, so there we go. Beatrice. We're getting some intense stuff coming up next. How is everyone feeling about where we're at now?
When does it go
It's
wrong?
right before everything kicks off. Yeah, it just went wrong right at the end. They just lost their entire way back.
Yeah, I know, but when does
Yeah.
it go more drastically wrong? You know, we're seeing everything
Yeah,
closing on
Beatrice. Beatrice says piss, I suppose, and all of their towers abruptly shatter. This is awesome. This is a great time for everyone involved. They're screwed.
It's totally not a portent of horrible things to come. This is fine.
It's gonna
is
be
fine.
sunshine and rainbows. It'll be fine, guys.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna
Taildy
find a field of
already-
flowers. It's gonna be.
Oh, I know.
sun-
Yes.
Taildy knows what's to come, unfortunately.
Coyote is having Vietnam flashbacks as we speak.
Jaldi knows one chapter of what's to come.
Look, it's gonna be great. I promise.
It's gonna be huge.
It'll be fantastical.
They're gonna go to a magical
Whimsy,
land
full of joy and
rainbows
whimsy.
Doesn't everyone know that
Yes.
this is the arc where Subaru never dies?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is.
What I'd give.
Yeah.
I can't believe he never dies in
I
the
think
story ever again. Oh, sorry, guys. Spoiler.
Yep. Sirius got
okay.
the last one.
Yeah. I mean, there was that statement by Tape.
Tepe's
Oh,
just
taking
been-
off the
I
kids'
feel
gloves
like,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Arc 6 should have had like a Lemony Snicket-esque introduction where it's like, this story is not for the faint of heart. You know, proceed with caution. You know.
It does have that at the end of one of them.
Just at the end.
At the end of one of the chapters.
You've been traumatized. Be aware, the previous chapter had some pretty traumatizing things. Are you okay?
Are you
No,
okay?
yeah, that pretty much exactly.
Take a breather.
When
So
I-
much fun.
Take some tea.
No spoilers here, but when I first read that, I was like absolutely appalled and I had to go take a walk. I was like, you fucker.
Oh wow. I can understand that. Yeah. It's a lot.
Well, I was just like, okay, well, it's nighttime. I finished recording it. Time to go to bed. No bad dreams here.
You're
I'm
welcome.
gonna sleep on it.
It's gonna be great when we get to that one.
Oh, yeah. I
All
look forward
horror
to
music.
revisiting it, honestly.
I can't. Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, there's gonna be a lot of yelling.
So great. Oh,
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Mike
yeah.
Peak Central.
Oh,
My
I'd be
Peak Central.
on guard with that.
Luckily,
one.
I'm the narrator. Don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Hello. Kiki's. No, wait. No, you're not. Yeah, no. It's me and Connor covering. And Drad if he's here.
And Drad, yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks that the first
Yeah,
time the
Drad.
Dragons actually had a line, Drad wasn't here.
Yeah.
I know.
It's okay. He's gonna give me a sound pack.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah. The Drad soundboard.
Just play it on repeat.
His creature noises are so fucking good, like unironically.
Fuck living it. I just read that one. That's horrible.
I'm so sorry.
That's
All right. Anything else you guys want to chat about with this? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up and we'll just hang out for a bit. And chatters, do you have anything you guys want us to talk about? Fun fact: we did cast Ari Alulu as our Ram, and she does not want spoilers. So we're gonna see how Chapter 15 goes with that one. I may cover
Oh God.
in the interim just so she doesn't get spoiled because she would like to not. But if she can, she will be screaming at a mic, which from what I hear is normal for her.
Yeah.
So that's perfect.
She's doing 15 blind as a person in the chapter.
Yep, and
That's
she doesn't
crazy.
do anything else
That's
around
crazy.
it. I just give her
That's
a quick
crazy.
direction, and that's
Yeah, we have
no.
we have censored scripts for her.
everything's
Okay.
blocked out.
Okay.
She's had like 10 lines
So,
so far.
Like the spoiler tag. There's
To
spoiler
the chatters
tag
that
lines.
to the chatters that I caught off guard with my ROM voice, don't worry, there will be a replacement in the final versions.
Connor is our temporary one. Just like Anastasia will be replaced, you will not have my terrible southern accent, Anastasia. You will have Allie, VA. Our upcoming character to be named in the Watchtower, I think is going to be covered by me, question mark. But it will be eventually Words of Fate, who is our Priscilla. And then Teal'D's are
Beatrice
stand-in
will be
for...
replaced.
Teal'D's are stand-in for Betty, but Kiki can come on Wednesdays, so we will be alternating, which is excellent.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so you will get a little break, so you get to keep narrating, of course.
Huzzah.
Armelia is
Huzzah.
forever Comet. Subaru is forever Wolf. I am Amelia. And Connor is Julius. And
Yo.
The rest of us are the sand.
The sand.
I'm a
is
lot
the
smarter and more
Oh,
handsome
the
than
sand.
Subaru currently.
And then we have other characters
Recourse to rough and
upcoming
irritating.
that are precast. But we are inching closer towards the end of Phase 1 of Arc 6, which means we will be prepping our auditions for Arc 7 shortly. We will open it up for our cast first, so I will have a private link for them for a couple days prior to sharing it with everyone else, but everyone will be able to audition for all the characters we post. I will also have a demo collection posted on Twitter around the same time, so if you have a voice acting demo or just want to, or have like a collection of characters that you make on a quick demo, so we can bring you in for extras or just off the cuff readings, we'll have that submitted as well. We're thinking around late this month, early next month is our goal for that.
Oh, wow.
You mean late April?
Wait, April or March? Because that would be...
Yeah, because that's tomorrow otherwise.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I thought we were
that's
already
tomorrow.
April. I thought we were already April. Sorry, late
Nope,
April,
not yet.
early May. Late April, early May. Probably early
Okay.
May,
Whew.
based on how fast.
Not
we're
just one
going.
day to prepare. Okay.
No.
Uh-huh.
We got like a couple weeks before, because we have to gather the lines. In fact, everyone here in our chat, if you have Arc 7 lines for specific characters that you can remember or have access to and you want to send it to, maybe I'll make a little chat. You can write the character name and the line, and then it might help the boys organize those lines a bit easier. And I'm helping too as I read through Arc 7.
Indeed.
Get some
There's
variants on
a
them,
lot of
yeah.
characters we got to cast, so if you want a chance, this will be it. Keep your eyes peeled. Get your voice ready. Man, I gotta prepare my business voice in one day. Oh,
You got weeks.
submitting tomorrow.
I'll see if I can set it up so you guys can also help Connor, Wolf, and Gold with that organization. But everyone else,
Okay.
there will be an announcement when we post the live auditions for the entire community to audition for Arc 7. But they are coming up, so just be warned. And we'll hold auditions for about a month and a half. So loads and loads of time. Won't be closed till like end of June.
Mole, mole.
Hi. With that, I think that
I
is
will
it
take
for
those.
our live stream today. We will see you all again Wednesday. There are a lot of podcasts coming up this week. We'll see everybody on Monday. To our members, you should be getting the next phase of Arc 8 as soon as I'm done editing it, so that'll be live. Everyone will see the Subaru birthday one on Tuesday at the same time. No members early exclusive on that one. And once I am done our Friday podcast, our members will get that first, but of course everyone else will get it on Friday, and it'll be the next phase after that of Arc 8. We're almost done wrapping up Arc 8, and then we have a couple of others. I just recorded an Arc 6 reaction with the boys last night. Although I was hella tired, so I got a lot of edits to do to make it sound like I wasn't dead the entire time. But that's okay. You guys will still hopefully enjoy.
Everything's gonna be great.
Yes.
So make sure to like and stay tuned for everything. And if you want to see Lustiff, send in what you can for that too.
Yes.
It's gonna be awesome.
We're
Great year for Reverie.
Yeah!
Great year! Woohoo! And we're growing so quickly, so thank you all. Thank you everyone, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone!
Sayonara.